All right, we are live. Thanks for joining, and it's a very difficult time. I'm here in Rishikesh, India, and I just happened to see the bombing, the bombing of the hospital in Gaza. So we know what is happening in Gaza: 3,000 deaths in a very short time, in 10 days, 3,000 deaths, and actually this is a collective punishment. And but it's one thing. I mean, it's all on civilians. And what is shocking is that you have the Western community, which is actually backing Israel. And was yesterday actually a vote at the UN Security Council, and this vote against the Israeli aggression on Gaza didn't pass because you had four countries that actually voted against. The countries that voted against was Japan, UK, France, and the US. So those countries, they bear very huge responsibilities because what is happening right now in Gaza, it is a genocide. And I won't be nice. I will not be nice with what is going on in Gaza. How did it happen? When we need to go back. We need to just to put everything back into the context. Those are occupied territories. Gaza is an open prison, and they've been actually treating Palestinians as subhumans for a long time. So when you are treated like a subhuman, what do? You resort to aggressive means. And a lot of people they say, well, Hamas. I'm not into like big fan of Hamas. It's questionable. It's a movement that is questionable, but again, it represents Palestinians, and they have the legitimate use of force. You are, and also on the UN Charter, if you are an occupied, if you're occupied by foreign forces, you have the legitimate right to defend yourself. Now, those people, they were born under occupation. They were humiliated under occupation the whole time. They were killed, random killing. What is happening in Gaza, in Palestine, is that you can have settlers that actually have no link to the land of Palestine, or, if you want to call it Israel. They come into Palestinians' homes and they take you home. And literally right now, what is happening at this present moment, settlers, they have the right to kill people, to kill Palestinians, just because there's no law. There's a law for the Israelis. And actually, not even within Israelis, you have this apartheid state, which Arabs, keep in mind that 20% of Israelis are Arabs. They don't have the same rights as Israelis. And we are accepting that. The collective West is accepting that. But now, what they did last night was to bomb a hospital. It was a guided bomb of 900 kilos, American-made. So they were targeting a hospital, a single bomb that made 500 dead. 500 dead. 3,000 civilians died in Gaza under the shelling of Zionists. I call them Zionists. For me, right now, I do not recognize Israel. This is a Zionist state. It is a Zionist state, racist movement, and the single goal is to eradicate Palestinians, genocide Palestinians. What is going on now is about how the way Israel perceived and what is the strategy, and what has been the strategy since 1948 is actually to expel Palestinians. It's just a continuation. There have been, since 1948, many small wars, skirmishes, and every time, what is the result? You get the Palestinians that get less land, they start living. And what they want to do here, they say, we give you an opportunity to leave through a corridor, to leave all the way to Rafah, to Egypt, so you'll be safe. But guess what? Guess what? You'll be safe. You'll leave Gaza, but you won't be able to come back. People forget that there are millions of Palestinians living outside Palestine because that's the strategy Israel has used. You persecute them, you bomb them, you steal their houses. What is left? You have to leave if you're Palestinian. If you're under bombs, you have a family, you're a man, you have family, what do? It's a very difficult situation. So last night, the King Hussein of Jordania, he issued a statement. He said, I'm not a big fan. This is a US puppet. Keep in mind, there are US army bases in Jordan. That's a US puppet. And there's a high risk that it's going to be toppled. There are hundreds of thousands of people in Jordan right now that are in the streets protesting against this US puppet. Well, what did King Hussein say? He said, we will not accept refugees, and neither will Egypt accept refugees. But I get that. Why? Because he knows that the purpose of bombing Gaza is to get rid of Palestinians. And now, bombing on a hospital where people are already, they're half dying in that hospital. You bombing that hospital. How many children died? And you see clearly the treatment of mainstream media when it comes to Israeli death or Palestinian death. There's no coverage. They are going to spend hours and hours on, okay, a family that was killed by Hamas, but then hundreds of deaths every day. Single bombing, 500 deaths on a hospital where people went to that hospital because it was a safe haven, and they were injured. Then the treatment of the Western media. At first, the first reaction, what was the first reaction? Deny. They say, well, this is probably Hamas bombing its own hospital. Whereas, first of all, Hamas, the rockets that Hamas launches, they make scratches on buildings. You know, it's overrated. The bombing of Hamas, those are homemade rockets. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make like 500 deaths. You know, at most, those rockets, they might kill like 2-3 people at once. So mainstream media, they actually started like this. And now they have no choice but to say, well, that happened. But somehow they are going to find other excuses. Maybe they are going to say, well, they were hiding weapons there. There were Hamas leaders there. So now let's take a step back. 7th of October, Hamas attack. And it went like smoothly in a prison, because Gaza is a prison, which is has the highest technology in the world. You know, you cannot break a prison like this. You cannot leave just like this and kill people. You know, this is a very sophisticated army. So my opinion is that Israel and the Netanyahu regime gave a bait. There was a bait to Hamas. Part of the protection of Gaza that was transferred in Cisjordania to protect settlers, but, you know, on purpose. So Hamas took the bait, and they did what they did. But in reality, the objective of the Netanyahu regime was several. One, he has internal problems at home. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis are not happy with the constitutional changes, the legal changes, that he wants to do. So he can get a better control, and the direction of Israel will be more like far right nationalistic, and less tolerant direction. And then take more land, create chaos, help the US as an off-ramp. And it's an off-ramp because the US is losing and NATO are losing in Ukraine badly. They're losing against the convention army, right? Then, so grab more land and just, continue on this Zionist project. Get rid of Palestinians. That's what they want to do. And it is working. That's a genocide happening. Different ways of doing genocide. I mean, you can kill, that's what they're doing, but ultimately they want to get rid of Palestinians. And they don't hide it. They are open about this. And when you look at the IDF statements, they're saying, well, civilians are combatants for us. So they want to get rid of Palestinians. That's the goal. And additional to that, that is extremely important. Israel is doing the work of the US because the US wants to create chaos in the whole region. They want to go against Iran. Now, two reasons of the bombing of the hospital. One is collective punishment, but nobody's talking about this. But they want to give a bait to the Arab countries, destabilize those countries, because the people in the street in the Arab countries are angry. They are shocked. They want their government to do something. They want to force their government to go against Israel and the US. And it's understandable. But they shouldn't take that bait, because this is a bait. And they want to get Iran. In Iran, they're making statements these days that are extremely scary. There's an official statement that just came out. It says, in Israeli, from the Twitter account from Iran, time is up. Time is up. So it's very scary. Then when you look at who is actually for the escalation and who's against the escalation, well, you have the collective West. Nobody's talking about de-escalation. Nobody. It's like give time to Israel. They have to do their work. It's part of their globalist agenda. And Israel is on the forefront of this US empire project. What they are doing, they're shutting down food. Gaza is completely closed. They need external aid. But Gaza is at the moment completely closed. They have a border at Rafah with Egypt, and there are thousands of containers of food, medication, help. It's closed. And not only it's closed, but they are bombing Rafah, humanitarian aid. And then there is Hezbollah. That's a big question. There are skirmishes in northern occupied territories. Again, words are important. Israel are occupied territories. That's an occupier. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Since I haven't mentioned this, but since I covered Israeli conflict with Brian, we did a live show with Brian. They actually demonetized my channel. Demonetizing meaning, I wouldn't make any small money that I could be making, but that changes the algorithm. So now everybody that has an alternative voice against the Zionist regime will be shut down. Shut down different ways. You'll be called names, anti-Semite, which I don't give a shit, right? You'll be cancelled. They will shut you down from a platform like YouTube. And this might be one of my last video on YouTube. I'll have to move outside YouTube. They are firing journalists. MSNBC, already three journalists are kicked out. But when they're firing journalists, what happened? It's what Chinese call, you kill the rooster to frighten the donkey. Meaning, that's a metaphor, that meaning you fire one journalist, then you have hundreds of other journalists in the same company, they watch and they say, you know what, I'd better avoid this topic of Israel. I need to get soft. That's what we call self-censorship, which I don't do. You know why I'm just a bit more respectful is when I go to others' channels, because I don't want them to get strikes. I try to be objective, not emotional, most of the time. This is not the day. This is not the day that I'm rational, because I'm angry. I am extremely angry. And I think this is a time to speak out. But again, you see, the way they are shutting down our voices, not only to cancel through, we won't get any exposure, but also they are going to implement legal actions so we won't be able to speak out. I give you an example. A French MP yesterday from La France Insoumise, she was asked on TV, do you consider Hamas as being a force of defense or force of liberation? She said yes. But you know what? In France, it's illegal. Why? Because France has recognized Hamas as a terrorist organization. So she is being prosecuted, for what? For apology of terrorism. So now you can support Palestine right now in France, but you cannot support Hamas. That is the direction where we are going towards. It's very scary. They are going to shut us down completely. There's also one thing which is really important. We are entering also into a phase of a strategy of tensions. So you see, we experienced that after 9/11. What happened after 9/11? Remember, after 9/11, you had two sides. You had the pro. I actually was pro-US. We need, and the anti-US. The anti-US, they were too happy. Oh, you know what? We actually beat the US and we humiliated them, right? The pro-US, they were like very emotional. We have to hit someone. Doesn't matter. Whatever the government is telling us, we have to go after them. But everything was both irrational from both sides, We did jump into this theory that you had this old guy in the cave of Afghanistan that actually was planning everything for 9/11, right? Nobody questioned the insider job of 9/11. And if you did back then, you were canceled. So now it's exactly the same. Pro-Palestinians, they're too happy. Oh, we inflicted a painful humiliation. Yes, you did. It's a short time satisfaction. When you slap your enemy, you slap your boss, short-term satisfaction. But you know what? You're going to lose your job. Israeli side, same, emotional. See, they are uniting against the enemy. Before they were actually split. They were fighting each other, right? They hate Netanyahu. It's a radical regime. They wanted to get rid of Netanyahu. Now they're united because it's very emotional. Nobody takes it rationally. And very important, both sides are seeing only what they want to see. So now, pro-Palestinian side, it's extreme. You cannot have a question mark. You gotta be all in, all in. If you start questioning Hamas, the role of Hamas of before, how Hamas was propped up by the US and Israel. Israel was funding Hamas. Hamas fought alongside ISIS against Assad in Syria. The fight of Hamas is legitimate, don't get me wrong. But we need to be pragmatic, step back a little bit. So now, if you are a moderate voice in the Palestinian side, you get cancelled too. People are getting extremely irrational. So what is after? What is next? I have a hope, there's two directions. I think that China and Russia might actually find a way to get people, to get some resolution at the UN and call for de-escalation. But what we are seeing here, you see, it's a micro event. Again, it's dramatic, but shift. Put them bits by bits. Everything is linked, right? Macro thing, Thucydides trap, the US is actually declining, and it's actually struggling for its survival. So what do? You print money, you are actually attacked by all sides, attacked in the sense that most of the global south is actually dropping the US dollar. So you won't be able to print dollar like you used to. And there's a shift. We see BRICS. We are entering to multipolar world. So what do? Well, you use Ukraine against Russia. But then Ukraine was an inflection point. The inflection point. Why? Because Russia is actually really humiliating, not Ukraine, because this is not against Ukraine. This is against NATO. And if you look at the ratio, NATO is spending 15 times what Russia is spending in defense spending. And Russia is winning. It's winning for different reasons. It's been prepared for that war. It has the industrial capacity. It has the willingness. It has a cohesion of a whole society that is willing to fight for its survival. And it is attacked, right? When you are attacked, then you fight, right? What happened after that? You started having countries in Africa actually going against the establishment, which was pro-Western establishment, pro-France. French puppet regime falling. Now they're desperate. What is happening right now? We are very close to Ukraine's collapse. It's possible. It can happen anytime. What do you do? Who's talking about Ukraine these days? Nobody. Well, it's normal. That was a trick. That's what they wanted to do. Timing. How do you explain that timing? Strange, huh? Ukraine is about to collapse. And then overnight, there you go. Hamas entering. Again, I'm not condemning, I think it's legitimate. It's legitimate. They did atrocities. Of course, they did. Against settlers, against civilians. Well, they did. But individuals, that's individual level. You see this oppression and this random killing at the Hamas level. They're not calling for that. You have probably some individual killing, and you cannot blame a whole nation for some individuals. But when you look at Israel policy, this Zionist apartheid state, racist state, is calling for the annihilation of Palestinians. That's a national policy. And if you really look at what Hamas wants to do, even if I'm not a fan of Hamas, it wants something extremely simple. Extremely simple. What you and I want, everybody wants, dignity, being treated like a human being. I want to have a house. House meaning I want to have a nation. You kick me out of my house. I want it back. Give me back dignity. There's nothing much than that. Dignity. It's all about this. And what actually Chinese government, Putin is saying exactly the same thing. Why did we let this happen for 70 years? 70 years where you put people where they cannot get in and out in an open prison with 2 million people. The situation got rotten. We forgot about Palestinians. And you see, I think there was a frustration also from the Palestinians. The Abraham Accords was a normalization between the Arab states and Israel. So the Arab states, they actually forgot about Palestinians. Because you start normalizing your relationship and we have less and less territories. So we need to hope that this stops. It needs to stop. It needs to stop as soon as possible. I'm extremely upset about my government, Western government. I'm upset because they are going to make it illegal to be against what is happening now. What is happening now, it's not much different. You know, this is remember World War II, there was a siege of Warsaw, you know, in Poland. There was a ghetto, Jewish ghetto, right? There was a siege there. But maybe this is even worse. You know why? Because you're bombing hospital. You already bombed those people. They go to a hospital, you bomb them again, and they're civilians. And now nobody's talking about this. They're shutting down the water. How many days can you survive without water? Do you know what happens when you don't have drinkable water? You have cholera. And they say it clearly. We don't see them as human beings. They call them on TV savages or animals. They say we want to turn Gaza back to Stone Age. They say that. So what can we do? I think not much, but at least bring awareness to people. And honestly, I say, like, I'm not here, you know, I'm not on social media to be liked, and I'm not, you know, I think there's a duty for people just to speak out. And you know, maybe it's going to be inconvenient. But personally, I have now, at the present moment, zero respect for those people that claim to be the elected people and to have suffered, they keep on whining to have suffered the Holocaust. No, what you are doing is no much different. No much different. You have no excuse. And it's over. You should be judged now. And I think the people that died during the Holocaust, your ancestors, if they were looking at you of what you are doing, they would be extremely upset. What the fuck did you do with the Zionist project? Why did you go all the way to Palestine to kill people in no name, in no excuse? Keep in mind that most of the Israelis, Zionists that went to Palestine, they don't even have a link, historical link to Israel. Ashkenazi Jews, they were converted Jews. They were not even from the land of Palestine or whatever Israel, whatever you believe in. They were pagans in the Middle Ages, converted to Judaism, because pagans were killed by Christians and by Muslims. You know, it was really bad to be pagan. So you are a white guy from Eastern Europe, you go all the way to Palestine, and Palestinians, you know, they took over Jews that were persecuted in Europe. They took them as brothers. They said, you know what, you are persecuted. I open your door. Next thing they do, they are stabbed in the back. Stabbed in the back, 1948. Then they had the right to go into your home and take you home. So if you want to criticize Palestinians, put yourself into their shoes for 1 second. 1 second, put yourself into their shoes, what they've been through, and how they are treated when they cross checkpoints. Because, you know, they can go sometimes to work to Israel. You know, it's very difficult. They can. But you are going to earn pennies. You are going to go through humiliation, daily humiliation at those checkpoints. So when Hamas was killing those IDF soldiers at checkpoints, just think about how they were thinking. You fucked me over for decades. Since I was a kid, you humiliated me. You humiliated my family, my parents, every time I was crossing that checkpoint. That's for you. That's what they were thinking. Put yourself into their shoes. And then, you know, you won't understand them, but you will begin to understand them. That's a tough one. It's a tough one. I suggest, you know, there's a few people doing some really good job. Richard Medhurst, I think you guys know him. I'm going to take a few questions. So I'm here in Rishikesh, you know, kind of on vacation in India, but I think I need to step in, you know, and I'll be covering a little bit this, but I'll be actually following, you know, some of your comments. Just put the queue for question, and we can have an exchange, you know, a friendly exchange. I'm just gonna cool down. Let me have. Oh my God, I need a sip of coffee. What's going on, darling? What's going on is crazy, stupid, and showing men that we're giving brains don't know how to use them. This is America can save the world. You know, America, what they have in common is this sense of superiority. Just think about, you know, Americans, you know, this sense of superiority. You know, we have a mission, Manichaean's mission, you know. And well, you know, what they have in common with the Ukrainians, you know, nationalists, you know, and Ukro-Nazis. It's you know, it's Aryan superiority. And then Israelis, they have also, that's in their religion. You know, call me anti-Semite, who gives a shit? We are the elected people. When you're saying that, that's racist. I'm sorry, that's racist. You don't say that. You know, you don't say that. I'm the elected people. It says I'm better than you. Mark Bolton, let's see. There is any evidence, reliable evidence, or to who hits the hospital? But just in terms of bombing, the Hamas doesn't have the it makes homemade rockets, small rockets. This is a 1-ton bomb, and it's a guided missile. So that's the evidence. I mean, just common sense. Okay, just keep on shooting questions. Yeah, Green 44. I don't think Palestinians have F-16 and 1,000 pounds bomb. Absolutely tragic. The loss of life is appalling from both sides. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But the Western media are crying only one side. And you know what is happening? They are actually losing, the collective West is losing completely the global South. The global South is no fool. They're no fool. They're watching that and like, you know what? You called us the jungle and you call yourself the garden. It says everything. Israeli, that's a question, Green 44. Israeli settlers are not innocent. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Morally, if you are a settler, you're not innocent. And most of those settlers have actually weapons, and they're very radical. Yeah, they want to get rid of them and take the land at some later point. No, they even now, but you know, it's a salami slicing. You cannot put the whole salami. You gotta put it into slices, so it goes through slowly, bits by bits. You know, it's a slow death. No different from Holocaust concentration camps. You know, slow death, slow death. Pure evil, yes. Yeah, Russians bombed our Hiroshima. Well, you know, you see, the problem is that people, you know, they will rewrite history. They will, you know, they will brainwash people about what happened. You know, and now actually you see, the EU is going, you know, is going after Twitter. You see, Twitter is one of the very few platforms where we still have a voice. You know, and I'm pretty much free on Twitter, but that is the last big platform with big coverage where we have a voice, and thanks to Elon for that. But the EU is going after Twitter, and they're saying, well, you know, we have a problem with Twitter. You know, you need to do something about it. And Elon Musk is saying, well, you know, tell me which tweets are not okay. I'll take care of that. Can you list them? And they don't want that, you know, because they want to get, like Twitter was before, they want to get their guys inside, where they had like FBI, CIA, people inside. You know, they were from, you know, working hands in hands with Twitter. Well, thanks to Elon, and not that I'm aligned with his interests, but, you know, I mean, at least for that, we need to thank Elon, and hopefully it doesn't change his policy. Yeah, Yiddish, you know, Yiddish, Rolf Steiner. Yiddish actually was a language from that region, Eastern Europe, that was spoken only there, you know, which was close to German. But in reality, all those Ashkenazi Jews that moved to Israel, they had to learn Hebrew because they never knew about Hebrew. And most of them, what is interesting is that most of those, the radical Zionists, actually are not religious. They're not. You know, you know, it has nothing to do with religion. And again, you know, this even within the Jewish religion, there are many actually that are anti-Zionist, because they say that Zionism goes against the Torah, the religion. You're not supposed to go back to Israel. If you guys, you know, there's people ask me about a good book. I read a book about Israel and Palestine. Oh my God, that was 25 years ago. It's Dominique Lapierre, and the name is Old Jerusalem, and it's very, very factual. And this is actually from before 1948, the whole history and the whole transition, and how actually they managed to get the vote at the UN to accept the creation of Israel. And keep in mind that the UN was, after World War II, an institution that was created and controlled by the winners, the allies, and mainly the US. So, you know, even now, when you look at the UN, the decisions of the UN, it's very biased. And actually, if the UN continues like this, not taking into account the needs of the rest of the world and accept that we are going to a multipolar world, well, the UN is going to be dissolved, and maybe BRICS is going to be a replacement of the UN. Yeah. I think now we need to, Israel is not a country or a state. Israel is an entity. Actually, right now, you know what? Words are important. I'm changing my wording. Israel is no more Israel. Israel is a Zionist state. Israel is in Israel, occupier. Words are important. Israel is a racialist and apartheid Zionist entity. Of course, it is. It is. It's nothing, nothing, nothing else. Hard to imagine Turkey would pick a side. You see, it's very complex. There's realpolitik. Turkey right now is actually sending help, aid to Israel. It is. I mean, some are playing both sides. UAE. UAE, they actually seized, together with Israel, an island that belongs to Yemen. The island's name is called Socotra Island. You can check it up. So UAE, they've normalized their relationship with Israel, and they actually grabbing some land from another Arab country. Realpolitik, Lebanon, at this present moment, is actually exploiting some gas alongside with Israel. Check it. It's all out there. Let's see what we got. I won't do much longer. I think I'm just going to wrap it up right here. But it's important just get on social media, be active, get the information out there. You can check my Twitter account, Angelo for Justice 3. So Angelo for Justice 3. I'm posting quite a bit of things out there. I hope they'll keep my YouTube channels going. But follow me on Twitter in case I lose my channel. That might happen. They are going to hammer those channels. It's going to get worse and worse. And we are not even at war. But once we'll get at war, really, once it gets really bad, then they'll shut people like me, my channel. If you want to support me, like and share, share my work, subscribe, any messages, it's helpful, anything, any suggestion. I don't know where this channel is going. I do it whenever I feel I have to do it. I do it because I feel I'm bringing a contribution. But the day that I don't bring any contribution, I won't do it. If other people are doing it and there's enough of people doing that, then it's fine. I have also a Telegram channel. Actually, I will sit down just later and I will put on the descriptions where you can reach me. You can also support me. This channel is demonetized. If you can support me if you want. Just if you can, anything. Buy me a coffee, a Patreon as well. I'm trying to turn this into a full-time occupation, and I'll be trying to do basically more like travel and coverage of geopolitics, and also kind of casual. I want to do something casual, not too serious. Today is a very serious day.